Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Introduction to Augmented Reality for and by Librarians Spring Forum, sponsored by ACRL, University Libraries Section, Technology in University Libraries Committee. This forum is coordinated by Minhao Zhang from Wayne State University. Today, we have the pleasure of having 4 speakers. I will be introducing them briefly in their presentation order. Our first speaker is Samuel Dial. He graduated with an MLS from the University of North Texas in 2011, and since 2014 has served as an engineering and data services librarian at Arizona State University. He's now currently working at the Roseman University of Health Sciences. In the second half of the forum, we have 3 co-presenters, Dina Mackey, Bill McNellis, and Samantha Kanigizer. Dina Mackey is a reference and instruction librarian at Berkeley College. She also serves as an adjunct instructor librarian at Rider University. Prior to that, she worked for the Syracuse University Libraries and American University in Cairo. She is a 2013 to 2014 ARA Spectrum Scholar and the 2016 and 2017 NJRA Emerging Leader. Bill McNellis is the library director for 2 campus libraries of the Berkeley College, New York City campus. Bill is also the information literacy liaison for the fashion program faculty and serves on the library systems, technology, and the electronic resources committees. Samantha Kanigizer is the student success librarian for Rutgers University, Camden. Prior to that, she serves as a research and instruction librarian for Berkeley College. Her current research interests center on ways technology can improve reference and instruction to better meet students' needs. So this is the timeline of the program today. We have pretty much gone through the first part. So the first part, the half of the session will be an overview of augmented reality, and there shall be no Q&A sessions following. It's reserved at the end for all speakers. The second half will be the application of the technique in the campus. But before the program officially starts, please allow me to post a link to the evaluation survey ahead of time, because some folks may need to leave midway for other commitments, and we do want to hear your input. So let me put in the chat feature. How to get the, let me stop sharing. Okay, to all the attendees. Here it is. So let's get started and welcome our first speaker.
Hi, today, as Minhao mentioned, I want to give a short introduction or overview of augmented reality, just to make sure that as we discuss these concepts and technologies today, that we're all on the same page and clear as to what we're talking about. I also want to give some examples of how augmented reality or AR is currently being used, and also how it is predicted to be used in the future. For this introduction, I won't be talking about AR in library or archive settings directly, but I'll be discussing it in a more general sense and talking about it as it applies in a variety of industries and settings. I want to invite you, though, as I talk about some of the uses of augmented reality today, to think about ways in which it can be used to support your library environment and how it could further enhance your library's patron experience. I think a good place to begin is defining what is meant by the term augmented reality. One of the best definitions of AR that I have found is in Helen Papagiannis' book, Augmented Human. In it, she describes augmented reality as, quote, a digital overlay on top of the real world, consisting of computer graphics, text, video, and audio, which is interactive in real time. One of the key points of augmented reality and in that definition is the real world aspect of it. We're talking about real environments and interacting in real time. So just to clarify, because I know there can be quite a bit of confusion about this, and in fact, as I mentioned to people that we would be talking about augmented reality, I had individuals tell me, oh, I've used an Oculus Rift before, or I own a Samsung headset, or I was also asked, so will you be talking about Second Life then? So what I really want to clarify is that completely virtual environments and virtual reality are actually distinct from augmented reality. Online virtual worlds, such as Second Life, where users are immersed in a completely virtual environment, and most uses of virtual reality and VR equipment, such as the Oculus Rift, the Vive, or Samsung VR headsets, are not considered augmented reality, since the user wearing that equipment blocks out the physical world and enters an entirely virtual environment. Augmented reality is very much centered around the user's real-world environment and interacting with that environment in real time. So for me, one of the first times I saw really how cool and innovative augmented reality could be was watching a presentation a few years ago from a company that was developing a hard hat with AR capabilities built in. In their example, a worker equipped with this device enters the facilities section of a large building. This area had a wide assortment of large pipes, heavy machinery, and other equipment. The worker, through a display connected to the hard hat, received real-time information about the machinery as it was working. Some of this information included the temperature of the outer surfaces of the equipment, the internal temperature of the equipment, the flow rates and internal pressures in the pipes, etc. The worker was also shown different safety warnings displayed next to hazardous areas. The employee could also pull up maintenance checklists as well as repair diagrams in their display, all of which could be used to help him or her more efficiently check equipment and perform repairs safely. So these next two images, I hope can give you an idea of what this presentation was like. From this image, you can see that the worker is able to see repair instructions related to this piece of equipment displayed in his helmet. Those transparent images are overlaid over the actual equipment so that he is able to accurately and efficiently make the repair. This image is another example of what could be displayed in the worker's headset, giving him or her information about various pieces of machinery and how well they are working. To accomplish this, the different pieces of equipment need to be 3D mapped or have another type of identifying marker, code, sensor, or signal that the AR device can recognize, as well as most likely a type of location-based or motion tracking sensor in that device, somewhat similar to the location tracking capabilities that are found in most smartphones. In this image, the AR device and related equipment are connected through an IoT or Internet of Things system in which all the equipment is network connected, providing real-time information and control. This is similar to how many home security systems, thermostats, or other home appliances are now starting to be connected and controlled. Okay, here's another example from a travel blog talking about what could be in store with AR in the future, and is what I believe is a somewhat common example of what technologists hope can be accomplished in the near future. In this example, a user wearing a headset or smart glasses would be able to look out into their environment and see overlays or digital annotations of various objects in their view. The user sees their exact location with street and geographic coordinates, the current weather forecast. The building they see directly in front of them is identified with the option to access further information if desired. A bus passing by is identified with brief information about its route and the next available stop. Road construction is identified with information related to its impact and expected completion. The user can also do a search of the area for shops, restaurants, other locations, and get navigational instructions relayed to them. And as you can see in the upper left-hand corner, notifications can be optionally visible, much like on a user's phone. These next images are actually an older example of augmented reality use, in which a team of computer scientists in the early 2000s helped develop an AR experience for an ancient archaeological site. The image on the left was the site in its present condition. The image on the right is an augmented overlay of what the structure would have looked like in ancient times, and what a visitor using the AR headset would have been able to see. One of the most popular recent uses of augmented reality is found in the game Pokemon Go, which recently crossed the 1 billion downloads threshold earlier this year. I'm sure many of you are probably familiar with this app, or at least aware of it if your library has become a location spot for the game. But Pokemon Go allows players to engage with virtual Pokemon creatures overlaid on real environments, utilizing the GPS location capabilities of mobile devices, such as what's on most smartphones. In fact, the widespread use of smartphones worldwide will potentially have the same effect that Google Cardboard or Samsung Gear VR and other smartphone add-ons help to introduce virtual reality applications to wide use. In recent years, both Apple and Google have developed augmented reality software development kits to help developers create applications that can take advantage of some of the smartphone's capabilities, such as I mentioned, the location and motion tracking and light and environment recognition. There really is literally countless other examples and ways in which augmented reality will be used and is already currently being used. Just to briefly give a few more examples, the retail shopping experience will change dramatically with augmented reality. And many companies have already started exploring different ways in which customers can interact with their products or become better informed about them through AR. Some of the ways they will do this is through either a handheld device or headset, which customers can use to simply look at or point their device at a product on a shelf and get all kinds of different information about that product. Stores can also readily advertise specials, sales, or other price information easily to customers through AR. Another way augmented reality will change the retail experience is by letting customers try products virtually. So for instance, furniture stores will allow customers to visualize furniture pieces in their homes, arrange them in multiple ways, all virtually overlaid in a customer's physical living space, so that customers can get a feel or see how those items will look in their respective homes before buying them. Another way it will change the shopping experience is through virtual mirrors or other devices that will allow customers to try on clothes, jewelry, accessories, makeup, or other beauty products without ever having to physically try on the products. Customers will essentially be able to test drive products before they buy them. Another industry that could experience a great change through augmented reality are the architecture and design fields. Through AR devices, architects and designers will be able to not only visualize spaces and structures during the design process to make sure they fit together and work well for the benefit of their clients, but the clients themselves will be in a position to use AR devices to better visualize the final designs and make sure they're on the same page with the designers before the product is even ever built or any building construction even begins. In the healthcare industry, we've already, in recent years have seen an explosion in the number of health monitoring and fitness devices, but these will continue to improve and increase and provide more accurate and detailed measurements of our body's condition, including its chemical makeup, heart rate, stress levels, etc., all monitored in real time. Doctors and surgeons will also be able to use augmented reality to access vital information on a patient, literally on the fly. And through sensors, cameras, or other images previously taken, we'll be able to transparently visualize a patient's internal organs and body systems to help them, for instance, a surgeon more accurately and safely perform a procedure. In the education field, educators will be able to create all sorts of new experiences, offer different ways to present content, and be able to cater to many different types of learning styles. Students, for instance, will be able to interact with digital holograms in the classroom to give them a better illustration of spaces, places, or events. Or even as the image on the right side of my slide here demonstrates, which by the way I took just this past week at my local Sam's Club warehouse, students can use augmented reality to help perform science experiments less expensively and in a safer environment, and do it all from the convenience of their classrooms or home. Augmented reality will also be a big part of all different types of entertainment, news broadcasts, sports broadcasts, and many other ways in which we consume information. It will be providing supplemental information and enhancing the viewer's experience. One of the things that excites me a lot about augmented reality are the many ways that the technology can help individuals with disabilities experience a greater quality of life and be able to get access to more information. For instance, individuals with limited mobility in either their legs or hands using AR devices would be able to simply point or look at objects in a store and get further information about that project or product. and also be able to put that item in a virtual shopping cart that an employee could then later retrieve for them or ship to their home. Some other companies and researchers have looked at using AR devices to allow users through motion and gesture detection to translate sign language into text and audio. And others have experimented and worked with developing live speech captioning or translation within devices. Other researchers are looking to develop devices that would convert spatial information into device that the device could interpret into visual patterns that would assist visually impaired users. There really are a tremendous amount of opportunities that augmented reality presents to make systems more accessible for individuals with disabilities. Currently, there are a tremendous amount and a wide range of devices and applications and companies developing augmented reality tools. Really briefly, I just want to name a couple of prominent ones. One of the most well-known ones is the Microsoft HoloLens, which is a headset with a smart display that includes a series of sensors to enable it to be used in AR environments. Currently, it's not available in a widely released consumer edition, but it is available to developers and enterprise users and has the benefit of working well with Windows operating systems. Another well-funded company that has developed what looks to be an amazing headset is the Magic Leap. They've been working with augmented reality for quite a few years now, and just this last fall released a creator edition of their first headset. Google Glass, as many of you remember, gained quite a bit of attention 6 or 7 years ago when it was first introduced by the founders of Google. And it has since lost quite a bit of attention, but it still exists and has been moved over to Google's X company, which is where Google's moonshot type projects are located. Glass is still being developed, and a number of large companies have been working with it to use it in bettering their processes and systems. Many popular social media platforms already incorporate augmented reality capabilities in their apps through the use of camera filters, but Snapchat and Facebook specifically have both invested a considerable amount of money in wearable glasses and in developing different ways in which AR applications and other things can be used. They definitely see a bright future in augmented reality. And as I mentioned before, smartphones with their wide adoption rate across the world offer both developers and users a basic level augmented reality capabilities and serve as an entry point for many AR experiences. So in conclusion, the augmented reality and the virtual reality trains, so to speak, have already started rolling fast, and there doesn't seem to be much that will be slowing them down anytime soon. Developers still need to figure out better ways to make their devices more affordable, comfortable, and convenient, and there are definitely many privacy concerns related to the wide use of cameras, recording devices, and the storage of user data that will need to be worked out. But widespread adoption of these technologies are on the near horizon. The global research and advisory firm Gartner just released a statement on Monday that they believe by next year in 2020, 100 million consumers will shop using augmented reality either online or in store. In a 2018 survey they conducted of major retailers, Gartner discovered that 46% of retailers plan to incorporate augmented reality in their shopping experiences. To me, it's clearly evident that wide-scale adoption and use of augmented reality is truly on the near horizon coming up in the next few years. And again, I hope that through hearing about some of the ways augmented reality is and will be used, that you have thought of some ways in which your libraries and archives can use this technology and these ideas to enhance the patron experience in all of our respective libraries. And with that, I want to conclude and pass it on to my co-presenters to talk about their experiences using augmented reality. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Sam. So I hope everyone can hear me. So my name is Dina Mecki, and I'll be presenting along with my co-presenters Samantha Kanegeiser and Bill McNellis about augmented reality and our library orientation. So we had a library orientation that we did across our campuses, piloted at our New York City campus using augmented reality. Okay, so first, our section of the presentation is going to revolve around augmented reality in the library, and we'll be looking at different platforms that you might want to use and what might be the best choice for you, your institution. Then I'm going to turn it over to Samantha and Bill, who will be talking more about augmented reality, about our library orientation and the project background. In addition to that, we'll be talking about the planning process and the augmented reality content creation. We'll be talking about the launch of our orientation and our assessment, as well as challenges and our next steps. So as Sam mentioned earlier, augmented reality adds digital elements to a live view by using a camera on a smartphone. So he gave multiple examples. One of them, and probably one of the most popular ones, is Pokemon Go. Virtual reality, however, is a more complete immersion experience that shuts out the physical world. So now that, again, the first part of this presentation was an overview of what augmented reality is and how it differs from virtual reality, I'm going to point out some options for those of you who are thinking about using augmented reality in their instruction or library programming. But first, I want to set up the stage a little for using augmented reality and some things to keep in mind when you're designing a program or incorporating it into your instruction. So it's important to note the differences of our incoming student body. And as new students enroll at our institutions, their learning styles are very different. And what they expect from their educators differs and changes, and it's important that we keep that in mind. So this generation of incoming students are expected and have used multiple media platforms. They learn based on collaborative seeking and synthesizing of experiences rather than standing and being the traditional lecture hall. They are expecting active learning exercises based on a blend of real life experiences and simulated experiences. And if you are getting the question in your institution of, well, why should we think about augmented reality? There are some benefits, though research is still in its beginning stages. And I'll speak more about that later. But the research that has been completed does point out a number of benefits, including increased motivation, higher student engagement, interactivity, and students learning faster. So if you're interested in learning more about the details of all these aspects, we've included all the research and citation information at the end of this presentation. So now that we have the background, there are a number of platforms that you have as options. If your library or institution is looking to do a mix of augmented reality and virtual reality, you have plenty of flexibility in terms of pricing and equipment use, though the equipment tends to be more for those of you thinking about virtual reality. But if all this seems overwhelming, never fear. There are communities that are out there to help you. You have groups like Next Reality that's hosted through Slack that not only help with programming ideas, but also technical support. You have the option to join in-person meetups, or you have the option to start your own. And as always, we have our beloved conferences, which tell the newest technology that you might be interested in investigating. And the Augmented World Expo does have recorded presentations that their conference has done in the past. Other than YouTube, Viro is also a platform that has video tutorials that will help you set up and design augmented reality components. So if you need guidance on how to build an augmented reality-based game or use animated GIFs or GIFs, however you pronounce that word, this is a place that you may want to check out. So this is a more detailed breakdown of some of the platforms, along with more of the nitty-gritty details about what kind of technology they support. And again, this is all linked in our citations at the end of the presentation. So for example, if you know that you're going to be primarily embedding photos rather than videos in your augmented reality, you might pick one of these platforms over the other. If there are plans to embed links from platforms like YouTube or SoundCloud, you might want to make sure that your augmented reality platform can support it. It also matters what kind of augmented reality you're looking to do. Augment, for example, specializes in 3D modeling, but it's by no means the only platform that offers it. Lay AR is another platform that offers embedding social media buttons and offers a great array of formats that it can host on its platform. This is a great list to get you started and thinking about what it is that you're planning to do. And again, remember, most of these platforms do have a free trial period, so you don't have to commit to subscribing. So at our institution, the platform that we chose to host our library orientation on was Erasmus, which now moved to a paid model and is now called HP Reveal. So our augmented reality plan looking forward is to investigate alternatives to Erasmus, to HP Reveal. So we are looking at multiple options. One of them is Blip AR. I had mentioned Lay AR in the previous slide, and AR Core, which is under the Google umbrella of products. So while research into the concrete benefits of augmented reality is still being looked at, there have been a number of studies that look at how libraries, and these include public as well, and academic institutions are beginning to really invest and use augmented reality in a variety of different ways, both in and outside of the classroom. Now, remember that one of the reasons that this has been there's been such a recent boost in popularity in using augmented reality are the developments that have taken place in mobile technology. Everyone has a computer on them at all times in the form of their cell phones. So it's an interactive and relatively easy way to reach out and do programming or instruction. In Hannah Pope's book, An Introduction to Virtual and Augmented Reality, 44% of the academic institutions that she surveyed while researching her book currently had some sort of augmented reality already set up, while 34% were still kicking the idea around and investigating using it. Sam mentioned a little bit about this earlier, but the augmented reality market is forecasted to balloon by 2022. So that means more and more vendors are putting out better quality and better priced products on the market. Companies like Cisco are already investing in augmented reality and using them in their employee trainings. So again, I mentioned that it's still too new to definitively report learning outcomes, but if anyone is interested in reading more about the ongoing research in looking at learning outcomes using augmented reality, I suggest reading the Cabero and Barroso article that we've linked at the end. So in reviewing the literature, two of the biggest hurdles that were most frequently brought up were training and buy-in. Some of you out listening to this presentation, this might sound familiar, but training is a challenge for both the librarians or library staff expected to present and guide their patrons in the technology, as well as the patrons learning and picking up the technology themselves. Another much talked about concern was getting buy-in from the faculty, especially if you want to try and utilize it for a class or have a faculty member commit their students to a pilot program. Having the library administration's blessing and, more importantly, their financial investment is also something to consider. But I would definitely say think about courting your audience if you're facing this issue. There are multiple free augmented reality platforms, at least for now, or ones with free trials that you can use. Programs like a technology petting zoo, where you set up workstations and have patrons and faculty interact with technology, are popular options. If you already have a program that you think that you can incorporate augmented reality in, I would strongly suggest using that as an opportunity. In our example, we saw that our library orientation was a great option for us to experiment with this. You can also use it for your own professional development. I know, as someone who has personally helped plan multiple professional development events, you always think about things like team building exercises or having something to break the ice. And there have been examples of programs like 3D augmented reality Pictionary or scavenger hunts for the library staff during their professional development. So now I'm going to turn it over to Samantha to talk a little bit more in more detail about our library orientation.
Okay, so this is Samantha Kanegeiser. I'm going to be talking about our specific orientation that we did for Berkeley College, the New York City campus, using augmented reality. We found that the AR was a really elegant way to provide an orientation that would meet both our library's goals and our institution's needs. So by incorporating this technology, we were aligning with the institutional goals of innovation and competitiveness, and then our library's goals of engaging our students in a new way to promote our services and resources. Additionally, we did benefit because one of our smaller campuses in New Jersey had used augmented reality to facilitate a campus-wide orientation. So we had an idea, kind of a roadmap of how to make this successful. Logistically, the AR orientation solved a problem which was really unique to our New York City campus. We had 2 libraries in different buildings across two blocks. So one of those libraries was mostly electronic with computers and study rooms, and the other was more traditional with our book collection and work tables. So we wanted a way for students to learn about both of these libraries without a librarian having to physically take them from one to the other. So the augmented reality allowed us to create a self-paced orientation that students could choose to do when it worked for them. So setting out, we defined some specific goals which we could then assess once the project was finished. So we definitely wanted students to be touring both campus libraries and aware of the differences in both. We wanted them aware of the physical, digital, and human resources available from either library. We wanted them engaging with a librarian either at the beginning or the end of the orientation. And we wanted to introduce them to a new technology, most likely for the first time. So in order to create this, there were multiple types of content to be considered. So we did have to create a script for the orientation because we were using videos. We also needed images, which are used for the augmented reality app, the actual videos, and then kind of combining this all in the augmented reality studio so that it would work as an actual augmented reality orientation. So our orientation, we decided to do in the scavenger hunt model. So part of the script was adding these clues that would take students from one stop to another. So we had to keep in mind we wanted something playful but informative. We wanted the clues to make sense to the students. But we also had to consider that because this was self-paced, we weren't walking along with them. We had to consider the physical flow of the orientation. So where would students actually be walking with their devices, viewing the augmented reality content? So we needed the order of steps to be logical and fairly easy to complete. After writing the script and asking for our students' feedback, we determined that it was appropriate to have about 5 talking points for each orientation stop, and also trying to avoid any library jargon, which our students were helpful in identifying. Again, because this is being used multiple times by many people, we wanted it as perfect as possible from the get-go. So once we knew the flow of the orientation and exactly which stops we would be sending students to, we had to take photos of each of these stops. So these photos become the trigger images which are required by the AR application that we used. So essentially, when the app is used to scan one of these images, that augmented reality overlay is then triggered. So it's important to have a really good color contrast with your images, and then when they're physically placed in the library, keeping them away from any sort of glare, because the augmented reality app needs to be able to easily scan them and recognize them right away for it to work properly. So our last piece of content was our videos. So for our orientation, the videos were the actual augmented reality overlay, which were overlaid on top of those trigger images. The technology does allow, as others have said, for videos, animations, 3D objects, other things. For our purposes, though, the videos made the most sense. So we created these with our librarians who read our script, kind of did a little bit of acting involved to keep students engaged. In doing this, we determined the video should be about 30 seconds long. That was enough to review the 5 talking points we had, accommodating for the length of the orientation and also keeping in mind student attention spans. They didn't want to be holding their phone up for 2 minutes at a time at each stop. We wanted them to kind of be moving along and active throughout the whole thing. So once this content was created, we had to kind of bring all this together in our HP Reveal studio. So this process here is specific to HP Reveal, but it's very similar in a lot of the AR applications that you could use. Essentially, you have to upload these trigger images, add whatever overlay you are adding to make it augmented reality, and then you have the option of applying actions to your overlay as necessary. And I'll show you what this looks like in a minute, but in our case, excuse me, and the last stop of the orientation, students would be taken to a web page with an assessment survey after that last video overlay finishes playing. So we had to apply an action that once this overlay is finished, please pull up this web page with a survey, so students would then take that. So this is just a kind of a screen of what HP Reveal Studio looks like. Again, it's specific to this application, but a lot of this is applicable to others. So the first step here is just uploading a trigger image. In this case, I just uploaded a flyer. Your next step is then uploading whatever augmented reality overlay you want. So this is my video, which it looks like an image, but this is an actual video, which would then be kind of dragged over the image there. So this will play directly on top of the flyer. Again, this could be a 3D object. It could be an animation. You have other options. But once you have your overlay added, you then start adding any actions you might want to. So in this one, you could say, when my overlay is tapped, what do I want to happen? You could then load a URL or change the appearance of the video, etc. So I think with this flyer I had, once the video was tapped, it would take them to the library website. So this is just one example of what this might look like. The process is generally the same, though, when creating some sort of augmented reality content. So the only technology we used to create this was a phone for recording and taking pictures. We also had library iPads, which students could use during the orientation, although they did have the option of just downloading the HP Reveal app to their phones. We just didn't want to make that a requirement. And then for editing videos, the library had already purchased some video editing software, so we used that as well. This is an example. This is the first video students saw for the scavenger hunt orientation. So this played when students held their device or the library iPad in front of our first trigger image. And I'll play it for you now.
Welcome to the New York City campus 41st Reading Library. The library is a great place to study, to find resources, and to get help from librarians who are here to assist you. Now, we're glad you're here. One of our laptops has gone missing, and we need your help to find it. You should probably start at the last place the laptop was seen, the desk where it was checked out.
So for our purposes, this just looks like a video, but when students did this, this showed up on top of an image on that they had kind of scanned with their phone. So it was really an augmented piece of reality on top of what they were seeing physically. But all of our videos kind of follow this format of being playful but informative and leading them to all the stops on their hunt. But now I will turn it over to Bill, who will talk about our actual launch of the orientation.
Great. Okay, thank you, Samantha. Okay, now once we had all of our videos recorded, our trigger images were set up in the right locations and signs placed around the libraries, we were ready to launch the Augmented Reality Scavenger Hunt at the start of our fall 2018 semester. We had one last set of tests, after which we had our fully operational activity in place. So next we focused on a few things. We wanted to promote the scavenger hunt. We wanted to create an assessment component. And along the way, we wanted to identify challenges as they arose while we're implementing the activity and decide on the next steps to further refine it. It was important that we made sure the activity could be used on a variety of devices. So we tested it out with various models of smartphones and tablets. including my own very outdated, at the time, Galaxy S4 smartphone. Made sure it worked even with that level of technology. We made sure that every image triggered in the correct video, particularly taking into account where the sign holders were going to be located, the lighting, just to make sure that the images would trigger the videos under the conditions where they would actually be located around the libraries. We had students with no previous experience with the activity tested out, just to confirm that they were able to follow from clue to clue and to make sure they didn't experience any technical issues or misunderstandings about where to go next on the scavenger hunt. For outreach, we worked with our college's marketing department to develop a brochure that would create interest in the activity, educate them about augmented reality as a technology, and give them all the information they needed to start the scavenger hunt. The brochure included steps for installing and setting up the app, as well as maps to help them move from location to location within the library. We promoted the activity and gave out the brochure at our new student orientation for the fall 2018 semester, and gave out water bottles as prizes for students who would complete the activity and show us the final screen. We also tried reaching out to some 100-level courses to ask faculty to consider adding the activity as an extra credit assignment. For assessment, we had the final video lead students to a survey that we designed in LibWizard, part of the SpringShare suite of tools that we use in our library system. We decided to keep the survey brief, since the scavenger hunt itself had multiple steps. We had two goals with our assessment. We wanted to gauge student enjoyment and engagement with the activity, but we also wanted to confirm that they had in fact learned about one or more library resources by completing it. We decided to limit ourselves to 4 questions, 2 for each of those goals. Now, since the fall 2018 semester, many students have started, attempted, or in some cases completed the activity, although unfortunately we're limited somewhat by the fact that we're using the free version of HP Reveal, which unfortunately doesn't allow us to check to see how many students started but didn't complete it. As far as the survey at the end, unfortunately only 8 students actually completed the survey after taking the scavenger hunt. We've had a lot of discussions with the librarians and librarian staff about the event to get their experience with students who are asking or taking it. And one thing we found was actually kind of unexpected, which is that our framing story, the quote-unquote stolen laptop, unfortunately may have actually discouraged student participation. As I quote on this slide, I personally had a student tell me at the desk when I talked up augmented reality and the activity that they wanted nothing to do with it because they thought it was a literal request to track down a student who had stolen a laptop. In reflecting on the activity now, we look back and we see that there were 3 key challenges, areas for improvement or refinement as we prepare for our next major new student orientation in the fall 2019 semester. First, we realized that we definitely need to get more feedback on the activity, both in terms of usage and student perception of both the technology and the activity, especially among those who don't have significant experience with our campus libraries. Second, as we've discussed previously, our augmented reality tool of choice, HP Reveal, is going to a pay model. At this time, we don't have details on the exact pay structure plan, but unfortunately, we don't have a technology budget allotted for this activity. So as noted earlier, we're looking into some other tools to see if we can find something that either has a distinct pay structure or that we can continue using as a free model. And third, as I talked about in the previous slide, the framing story needs an update to remove the stolen aspect, which may, in fact, be discouraging participation. As part of that update, we're essentially rebranding the augmented reality scavenger hunt for our next big push in fall 2019, changing the stolen narrative to one of a missing laptop. We still want to encourage that sort of mystery aspect and sort of encourage students to move from place to place, to search and explore the library and find different places in it. But we want to remove that element that may have been discouraging some students from even starting the activity. In our upcoming spring 2019 semester, which is starting soon, we're going to continue to test and refine the augmented reality scavenger hunt. One thing we're going to do is we're actually going to take our relationship with our Campus Gamers Club, which, full disclosure, I'm the faculty advisor of that club, We want to work with them to get much more detailed feedback on the activity, particularly if we switch to a different tool, which could result in a different interface or different experience as they take it. We're also hoping that working with the Gamers Club or possibly even other student groups will generate some word of mouth, creating more interest in our activity and in augmented reality in general. Overall, our goal is to take everything that we've learned about augmented reality from our first year of this activity and use those lessons learned to implement a rebranded, relaunched activity in time for our busy Fall 2019 new student orientation. Hopefully, some of what we've shown you today will inspire you to explore uses of this technology in your own libraries and institutions as well.
Okay, well, that is the end of our section on the orientation. We do have our contact info here if anyone has questions they want to email us, but I believe, Minhao, we're now opening up to just general questions as well.
Yeah, so right, the presentation part has finished. Now it's the time for the Q&A session, both for the first presentation and the second presentation. So does anyone have any presentations for our speakers?
I'm seeing one question about, say, the learning curve of HP Reveal. I found it to be pretty easy. From start to finish, I probably played around with it for a couple of hours, just learning some of the kinks of it and the best process for it. And all of the AR apps, including HP Reveal, have a pretty healthy like help and tutorial section. So anytime I did have a question, it was pretty easy to find the answer. But it took me a couple hours to really get the hang of it, but it's not a big learning curve.
Okay, I'd like to jump in on also from the student side. We tested it, and students generally were pretty savvy about downloading the app and installing it on their own devices. There's kind of a step where they have to add the Berkeley College channel that once or twice students came to us with questions about. But generally, they were able to jump right in and use it as well. Sorry, there's a lot of questions.
Yeah, we'll tackle as many of these as we possibly can. If we can't, please, again, reach out to us, send us your contact and your question via email, and we'd be happy to get back to you.
Someone asked about any other AR creation software. I personally am starting to use Zappar. It's Zappar. They are a paid model that has a free trial, but they've been really excellent with the amount of options they have and the different levels of augmented reality you can do if you want to go really deep versus something fairly easy. So that's been the next one I'm playing with. Bill, I don't know, have you been using anything else?
I have to admit, I've just kind of started exploring. I just got a new cell phone that can handle better apps now. So that limitation for myself is gone. I noticed someone here mentioned Blipar. Our director of technology actually recommended we look at that one next. So I see someone said they're doing a presentation. I may want to see the notes on that.
Yeah.
If I can jump in on another one of the questions, someone asked about why we chose videos or whether we considered other options. One of the reasons we selected videos is because one of our objectives for the activity was to kind of get the people taking the scavenger hunt to kind of see us, to kind of interact with us. Now, the irony is this hunt itself, since a lot of it was moving from location to location, wasn't necessarily interacting with us. So by having the videos recorded by different people, that first one that you actually saw was actually me. So that was my screen debut. But we tried to get as many of the members of our library team as possible to do those so they could see us, hear us, so that conceivably when they came to the library, it would be a familiar face that they'd hopefully feel comfortable talking to us.
So we have another question. How did the students know where the next station was and where to scan? So it was, because it was a scavenger hunt, each clue led to the next. So it was, in the first example we saw was, there's a missing laptop, go to the last place it was checked out. Can you find the circ desk? Once they get to the circ desk, there's another trigger where they have another video. Well, the last person that saw it was by the printer. So the student would then go over to the printer. So that's how they would kind of navigate their way. And there would be a flyer with the augmented reality trigger image that the students would scan. So there was a standardization there. So they knew, oh, okay, well, we'll look for the big blue flyer, and we know that there's something there that needs to be scanned.
One person asked about doing, we chose image-based triggering versus geolocation, which is another AR feature where you can do it based on someone's location in the library. Augmented reality would pop up. One, we were really new at this, and someone had, as I said, had done an orientation before using the image-based. So part of it was we were following along because we were new at it and not wanting to try too many new things at once. But also it just seemed like we wanted something visual, because students could walk through the library, maybe see some of these AR flyers and say, hey, what's that? And it was almost like another form of outreach, having these visual triggers as well.
So there's another question. Have you established a space for use of augmented reality in your facility? We have not. So we do have 8 separate campuses across Berkeley College, so across New York and New Jersey. So there's no one set space. And there was another question about, have you talked with faculty who might be interested in creating an augmented reality project for a class? It's still in the beginning stages of it. We have mentioned it as an option, but nothing concrete yet. But it is ongoing, and it is an option that we're looking to use that as an opportunity to work more with our faculty members.
We actually had a committee sort of piloting the use of virtual reality using Google Cardboards over the course of the last year. And I think I actually would like to do more with augmented reality in the next year. Someone else just asked about the flyers themselves. Just to clarify, the flyers were basically portrait-style documents with the trigger image in the middle and numbered. So it was said like scavenger hunt step number 1 through 9. And they were either in plastic sign holders on walls or clear plastic sign holders, say, next to the printer or next to the quiet room or whatever the location was. As we said, that's why one of the things we're concerned about is, do we have to worry about glare? Do we have to worry about reflection? What about lighting? But we found that everything worked really well almost no matter where the things were located.
Did you evaluate? Someone asked about actually seeing the tour. For HP Reveal, if you download the app and then follow the Berkeley College channel, you should be able to see all of the content that the college has created. It won't look the same because you don't have the trigger images, so you won't be able to actually see that kind of augmented on top of physical reality aspects. But you should be able to at least see some of the content there. I don't know how long that will be available, because I think once HP Reveal moves to a paid model, there is some question of what content is going to remain in everyone's studio accounts. I don't know for sure what they're going to be doing with that. Someone asked about a web-based augmented reality. All the ones that I've had experience with are app-based. I do agree that asking students to download an app it stops them from participating. One thing most do, including Zapper, which is what I'm using now, they have an API which you can add to an existing app. So if your college or library has an app already in existence, there is an option to kind of add this type of activity to that. Again, that's something I'm exploring just now, so I don't know how well it works or how complicated it is, but that is another option available because it is hard to tell students to download a new app. That's why for our orientation, we provided iPads, which were already set up.
One question was how much time was spent on creating the entire scavenger hunt and how many people were involved. So I think most of the time that was spent creating it, I would say maybe about a semester and a half, a semester and a summer, just because between the learning curve, between kind of creating the script, the timeline, figuring out what it is that we wanted our students to focus on, as well as doing the actual filming of librarians. So we had to, find volunteers. Some of them were not so much volunteered as we found. We locked them in a room. We said, okay, you're going to be featured in our orientation. And filming that and our learning curve personally. So we did not have that much of an experience. We didn't have previous experience that much with HP Reveal. So a lot of time was dedicated toward the learning curve. But once we understood how the technology worked, uploading the content and creating it went much quicker.
Yeah, the longest part, because it probably was about a 6 to 8 week process. The longest part for us was the videos. Making all this content into augmented reality is probably the easiest part. Creating videos that look nice and had some longevity took the most time. So if you were doing something without videos, that process probably would be much shorter.
Can anything in your physical world be a trigger? It depends on the platform, to be honest. So it depends on what app you're using and what the capabilities of it are. Obviously, the free ones, you're going to have a little more limitations on it. I mentioned earlier that the market is growing and more technologies is coming in. So while not everything might be a trigger, it's definitely, we're moving toward that.
There was someone that wrote about using augmented reality as a way for like book finding or wayfinding among the shelves. The author's name is escaping me right now. If it's not already in our citations, I will add it to that shared folder. But it has been used before as a way of kind of, one, helping students find a book on a shelf, but then also kind of finding related items and encouraging browsing.
Hi, this is Sam. I just want to really quickly answer the question that was related to privacy and copyright concerns. Yes, definitely augmented reality presents a lot of privacy concerns, especially with the use of a lot of the apps using user data. And one of the things that I kind of glossed over a little bit when I was talking about the Google Glass, but Google Glass, as I remember, it was very popular, kind of looked like a transformative technology. But then people got kind of, as they started to think about it, got a little bit creeped out about it because of the camera aspect or the recording aspects of, they were also looking at facial recognition technology, which, obviously invades a lot of people's privacy. So there's going to have to be a lot of policies and other things kind of worked out in regards to the developers and the companies, especially Facebook and Snapchat and others that are heavily investing in this technology to make sure that privacy is looked at and worked at, and the same with copyright concerns. Obviously, if you're stealing other people's intellectual property through the use of this or some of those other issues. So that's kind of a short answer, as I know there's a lot of other questions related to the other presentation, but I just wanted to chime in and answer that question.
There's a question here about accessibility. That was a big concern for us. I don't have a good answer yet. For us, the first thing we tried to do was put captions on our videos, and we could not upload caption files with HP Reveal. We would have had to do open captioning, which opens up other issues as well, rather than closed captioning. So we spent a couple weeks trying to find a way around that, and eventually had to say, like, we have to look at this for the next time we roll this out when we improve stuff. So even with just getting captions on, that proved difficult using the app. But then there's obviously other things to be aware of there, such as, physically we're asking students to move around the library, hold up their device for a certain amount of time to scan something. There's audio visual stuff happening. There's definitely a lot of concerns there that I don't know have been totally ironed out. We've done pretty extensive literature reviews, haven't found a ton of stuff talking about that yet. But I would say absolutely be as mindful as you can. For us, that's something that we're continuing to talk about, but we didn't find a great solution to that, the first time we rolled this out. But again, we are looking at improving it too.
And for the question about, was this their first experience creating an app, or did they have any coding experience? We didn't create the app, so HP Reveal already existed, but it was our first time going in depth into augmented reality. And is your library using augmented reality in any other way in instruction? So we are beginning to. So we have the Google Cardboard, which is more virtual reality, and we have a number of medical classes and our criminal justice classes that are using that in there with their faculty members.
Someone asked about seeing someone actually go through this process. I agree, it is hard to visualize until you see it in person. We don't have any videos of our students completing this. If you go on YouTube and just you could probably just even search HP Reveal or augmented reality, you can see people using this and get a better idea of what a video would look like. The project I'm working on currently, I don't know, anyone who's watched Harry Potter and seen like the moving pictures, the moving posters, where it's like Sirius Black in the wanted poster and he's moving around. It looks a lot like that. It's just that you're viewing it through your phone. So if that can kind of help you visualize what this might look like. But the other option, YouTube does have some really good examples and showing actual students doing this type of activity.
Yeah, just to jump in, someone asked about the escape room idea. We actually hadn't considered that, but that might actually be an interesting kind of follow-up activity. I'm just thinking about rebranding it Escape the Library. That might actually...
We don't want them to do that.
That's a good point. We want them to come and stay in the library. Okay, so maybe we'll think that one through.
All right, and again, apologies if we've missed any questions, or if you, again, want more details about any of the things that we talked about today, please feel free to email us. And we're also curious to know what you guys are doing in your libraries. If you are thinking about it, if you're implementing it already, or if you have an idea that you just want to throw around. Somebody said maybe a zombie apocalypse escape the library. That's the only time. Exactly. All the other times you have to be locked in, and you always have to stay at the library.
So it seems like we have reached the end of the chat, all the questions. So are there any, I think we have seen a new question.
Supporting similar AR projects that faculty and students are interested in. I think that's definitely the next step. Personally, I feel like I need to keep exploring a little bit on my own and making sure have it down, like the back of my hand before I start offering to support faculty doing it as well. But I think that's the natural next step to start, supporting faculty using this in the classroom. I know, Bill, your campus has done a little bit more with the virtual reality in the classroom, but we haven't necessarily done that with AR yet.
Yeah, and I think another thing, kind of looking forward ahead a little bit, it would be interesting to kind of encourage students to use this themselves to kind of become creators of AR content, because especially with in both Sam and Dina's presentations, they talked about this becoming such a big market. I think it's something, a skill that if students can get in on it early would be an advantage.
This is all through, for the question that just came in, we have an account with HP Reveal. So this is just the HP Reveal app that people download, and then they follow our channel on that app. So there's no separate app. HP Reveal allows you to explore all users' content. So everyone offers like the API that you could then add to an existing app or use for your own app, but it's certainly not required.
And yes, for the question about collecting student performance and use data. So that is something that we are bringing to our assessment committee for, again, ongoing. So we've only run the orientation the past fall, and we're planning on running it again in fall 2019 after, as Bill talked a little bit about earlier, the kinks have been worked out, a little bit of rebranding, but we are planning on assessing this and seeing how well they do.
Cool. Are there any more questions? We still have some time. Okay, cool. So I assume this is the end of the program today. The first thing I want to say that I'm really glad to see that there are so many questions for today's presentation. And thank you for being part of this program today. And the recording will be available in a month. At latest, I expect it will be included in the message to be distributed to various listservs and all the organization's social media platform. And 3 speakers were kind enough to create a citation list related to today's topic, which you'll find in the folder accessible both at the chat feature and on the slide you are currently seeing. Also, if you have anything to say about the session, please do fill out the evaluation survey I just shared. Last but not least, I would like to say thank you so much to all our speakers for joining us today and giving such fantastic presentations. Even as I code on a daily basis, I haven't known much about the AR and its application quite much until today's program. And we are most likely to just have another online program in the later part of the year. So stay tuned on that. Other than that, enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you so much.